This week, we're continuing The Blue Sword by Robin McKinley, otherwise known as We're Gonna Shift Up a Gear and Be Like, all right, bitch.
Hi, readers. I'm Jordan.
And I'm Katie.
And welcome to Not Another Heroine Season 2, the podcast where we break down the best and worst fictional heroines of any genre. Because that's what we do now.
Want to see what's next on our TBR list? Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Instagram for a sneak peek at upcoming content or to help us pick our next book.
We are back.
Yes. And not kidnapped. But Harry is.
If I were going to get kidnapped, this is how the way.
I know. This would be the
Let's
one.
go this way. So
he's like respectful.
This is what she was responding to in The Sheik, is like a respectful kidnapper, which never happens.
Yeah.
And like a rational kidnappee.
Yeah. Because, she's immediately like, I'm not really going to bother trying to escape right now because, like, they got these giant-ass mega horses. Like, there's no way I'm making it out alive.
This is a fruitless endeavor. Like, even if I did escape, I'd die in the desert. Like, I have no supplies.
Yeah, let's maybe hear them out, maybe. Because it's nice because you always get the brash heroines that do stupid shit. And it's like, okay, you're just endangering people at this point. Like, let's think through things.
And Harry is very much like, well, this kind of sucks, but, let's make the most of it, the best of it. And so she just is pretty quiet, and she's cooperating with the kidnappers, which is just, Corlath and one other writer. And things are going kind of swimmingly until she's like, hey, by the way, like, I would really like not to be thrown like a sack of potatoes over your horsey. Can I ride?
Yeah. And it's nice, too, because they immediately put her on a horse. And I think they get back to their main camp and they all kind of have like a begrudging respect for her because she didn't complain, even though they were riding in the sun for 8 million hours. And it's kind of one of those like, you go, Harry.
Exactly.
Like, okay, girl.
Well, Corlath like rides up to his like massive king's tent and he like deposits her in the front. And he's like, go inside. It'll be fine. Because he does speak like Homelander.
Oh, yeah.
And so she walks into this tent and then immediately gets swarmed by like attendants, but they're all men.
That would be frightening. Even.
Yeah. But so she's standing in this tent. There's like carpets everywhere. It's beautiful. Like it's definitely like traveling in style kind of camping.
Glamping.
Yeah. And so these attendants start bringing in like a bathtub and like pitchers of hot water, and they fill it up. And then they all line up and they're prepared to help her undress and take a bath. And she's like, absolutely the fuck not. Get the fuck out of the tent. I can bathe myself. And so they leave, and then so she takes her bath, and she's like, well, this is really weird, but I guess I'm being treated pretty well. And Corlath comes in, and he's like, were you upset? Because it's a huge honor to be waited upon by like members of both genders in our culture. She's like, oh, well, that's kind of you, but no.
That's not the vibe here.
Let's not do that, thank you.
He's like, oh no, I'm sorry.
So she's kind of settling into this main camp, and people are like not quite sure what to do with her. Like, the king just decided to kidnap a girl, so we're gonna just roll with this.
Don't look directly at her. Like, this is pretty weird.
But they have this very formal dinner. So it's Corlath in his main tent and all of his king's writers, which are like very distinct personality types, which you get a little bit more detail as you're reading the book. And they're all having a meal, and Harry is like sat in a place of honor, unbeknownst to her, like to the right of Corlath or the left of Corlath. And so they have this like multi-course meal. She's like, oh, this is kind of tasty. But at the very end of this meal, they bring out this like Viking horn.
Yeah. That's exactly what I imagined. Yeah.
And so they start like one by one, they take like a small sip out of this horn, and as they take a sip, they hold onto it, and then they like sit there. And sometimes like the person who just took the drink is quiet, and sometimes it looks like they are possessed by like a demon.
They are tripping on acid.
Literally.
But like probably,
So they proceed to like down the line of like 20 something people each take a sip of this magic water, and they they each have a different experience. And so Harry's like sitting back like, oh, obviously I'm not going to take a sip of this, until they hand it to her, and Corlath is, go ahead, take a sip. He's like,
no, thank you. I really don't want to,
but okay.
Take a sip. And she's immediately possessed.
Like, has a fucking seizure.
Yeah.
Like, the most vivid vision she's ever had in her life. And she sees a rider, like a masked rider with a full like desert turban on, leading an army against a charge of northerners, like wielding a blue sword. And it's like, it freaks her out, and it goes on and on and on. And finally the vision ends, and she's kind of like very unsettled and kind of queasy. And Corlath is right there. He's like, let me take that horn from you.
We're gonna take that. How about you sit down?
I'm very sorry. I didn't expect it to happen that way. But this whole experience kind of reassures Corlath. And this is where we get another perspective switch, which Corlath's like, well, this explains why my magic, the Kellar, was like so obsessed with this girl, because clearly she's got magic herself. She has got some sort of, desert hillfolk descendant in her lineage, and this magic is speaking to her.
And it's interesting that you say you have this like the explanation part, because maybe that was Robin McKinley's issue with the Sheik, was like, I would be interested to see what perspective it was, because you need Corlath's like, oh, that's why we had to kidnap her, or else it's like, you're still a felon.
Yeah, like that's not how that works.
Yeah,
not ever.
It's almost, you needed the nascent perspective switching to kind of get the like, oh, okay, so like he's not just a baddie, he's like doing it for a reason. Okay. Somewhat more on board with this,
but still
kidnapping.
Not okay, but like it's a fantasy book, so we're gonna roll with it.
Yep.
But this kind of sets off like the next few pages of travel, basically. So Harry settles into the camp, and I love that she basically gets adopted by a cat.
Oh yeah.
What's his name? Nargnon?
Yeah, Tarkaron. There's like a K and an N and an R in there, and you just kind of like guess the rest.
It's like if you ever seen a Bengal. Yeah. It's like an undersized leopard, oversized tabby.
Yeah.
And they're used in the camp for hunting, and they bring back like small game and stuff. But this female cat, we'll call her Nani.
Yeah, Nani.
Nani's like, you know what? I like you. And so Nani starts like following Harry around and like shows up for breakfast and takes her porridge, and like they just become like a bonded pair, and it's very cute. And so Harry starts like learning like tidbits of language, and people start accepting her as they're traveling closer and closer to like the actual like Damar capital region. So they're not, because these aren't like nomadic people.
Yeah, they're like quasi-nomadic, semi-nomadic, something about.
But they have like a fixed palace area that they're heading towards. Where do we go next?
I know what happens after that.
Oh, so as they're traveling and Harry's becoming more and more like adjusted to the people, and she's getting more accepted, they have like a celebration once they're like a day from the palace.
Oh, yeah.
And they have like a big bonfire, and they're singing and dancing, and Harry's like, this is kind of cool. But as she's sitting around the fire with Corlath and all his writers, she's staring into the fire, and then all of a sudden she sees a woman like come out of the fire and like fucking talks to her.
Hey, girly.
And it's like, I think it's the coolest thing, because it's like this gigantic older sister vibe. Like, hey girl, like I know you feel really weird right now, but like it's all happening for a reason. But it's like
Lady Erin, I think is her name. Yeah. She has bright ass red hair, the dragon slayer. Like,
yeah. And like at the start of this vision, Harry doesn't know who this is. It's just this red-haired woman who's like, hey girl, I got you.
You're gonna be fine, honey.
It's gonna be okay. I'm here for you. You're gonna do great things. And then like the vision ends, and Corlath like turns to Harry, and Harry's like, who the fuck was that? And Harry's like, well, that was Lady Erin, who is like the savior of our people and its queen that you just saw come out of the fire and talk to you.
Cool.
Harry's like, oh, okay, that's fucking weird, but I'm here for it. So soon after this vision of Lady Erin, Corlath gifts Harry a horse. Sun gold. Like, come on, have you ever been like a shade of a horse girl?
Oh
like,
my God.
So I think it's like, in the morning, Corlath comes out. It's like, hey, you want to go for a ride? And she's like, I'll go for a ride with you.
Obviously.
But he's leading his horse, which is like this.
It's like blood red.
Yeah, beautiful.
Angry stallion.
And then behind him is this tall, like tan gold horse with like a white mane. And he's like, this is Sun Gold to Sornin, or whatever the fuck you say his name. And he's for you. And he's like, oh, I want a horse.
That's one of those moments where if I also was kidnapped by some random man, but he gave me this beautiful ass horse, I'd be like,
We're friends now.
I'm fine with this kidnapping business. Like, this would be the moment that the Stockholm syndrome would like kick in. It's like, okay, yeah, sure. Here I am.
So she greets Sun Gold, and like clearly they have a bond right away, because this wouldn't be a fantasy epic if they didn't have a bond.
No, they're besties already.
Yeah. So she leaps onto the horse, and then they go out for like this fun ride, her and Corlath, and they start racing through the desert, and it's very romantic. And
you've seen this scene in all media set in the Middle East desert area.
They gallop across, they come back into camp, and like they're both exhilarated, and Corlath is probably like, why am I so infatuated with this woman?
Oh no. I thought the whole Lady Aaron thing figured it out, but apparently there's more.
And meanwhile, Harry is kind of like, I could keep writing, I could keep doing this all day. So they're like a day from like the central encampment, or the central capital. And everyone starts packing up, and then there is a King's Rider who's like kind of a grizzled older guy who's like knows the ways of the people. And he's been like teaching Harry like hill folk speak here and there, like little tidbits of knowledge. So Harry is kind of got like a passing working knowledge of how to communicate with people. He's like, hey, so we're almost to the capital, but you and we're going to go on a little trip. We're going to go off into the hills.
Yeah. This is such an interesting point now thinking about it, because when you're reading the book, you're like, oh yeah, totally. Like they're going to go train or whatever, because they're out alone together for like 6 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
Now thinking about it, having had some like time pass since we consumed this book, I would not be comfortable just like, okay, you and this random man that you've talked to a couple times are going to go out for 6 weeks. It's like, what? Like, that's the annoying part of this being fantasy, is like, we have to like not trust people at times. And it's like, I would like to have some mentor old man teach me the ways of the desert, and it's not weird. But it's like, now thinking about it, it's like, that would be really weird.
It's strange.
Yeah.
But you've seen the old Disney animated Hercules?
Oh, yeah.
Right? This is the scene with Hercules and Phil, the satyr.
Oh.
The training scene.
Oh my God. Yeah, we just need the freaking like soundtrack montage in the background.
So the character's name is Mathen, and he is just teaching Harry how to, wield a sword, then wield the sword on foot.
On foot.
Wield the sword on foot and wield the sword on horse, and just be a warrior, basically, be a King's Rider. And he's teaching her this over the course of weeks. And yeah, this is just a montage of training. And Harry, because she's so tall and so strong, like naturally, she kind of adapts to it, but like way more quickly than any normal human person would. And this is kind of where we get more and more glimmers of like her magic and her Kellar shining through, of like, oh, she was actually born to be in the desert and born to wield a sword and do all of these things. It's like she knew all of these things before, and she just needed someone to like refresh her memory.
I will say I appreciated that Robin McKinley had a mechanism for why Harry like all of a sudden picked up all of these skills that she really shouldn't have had, because it's kind of my beef with a lot of fantasy romance is all of a sudden the girl's like an expert swordsman, and it's like, you need some years to get good at that. And it's like, that's not very conceivable. But what's nice is there's a mechanism for why she's and it's like part of the plot and develops out. It's like, thank you for not making this stupid. Like,
what I also appreciated was that there was no weirdness over teaching a woman like sword fighting. Like there was nothing like about a man going off into the wild with a woman to teach her and train her. Like there was no like sexual overtones, there's no romantic overtones. It was just, hey, we're going to do this thing. And it's also like a normal part of the culture, because they acknowledge that, while it's not very common for, women to be King's Riders, it's not unheard of, and it is a practice. And there are women in the military in this country.
Because they do take it as a given. They're like, yeah, it hasn't happened like recently, but like it happens. Yeah. And then that's it.
Like, why not try?
Yeah. Could you imagine just like
no
being accepted at whatever, weird man-driven thing that you want to do, and it's not weird?
Yeah.
Like, okay, great.
It's just a thing. We're not going to have any kind of,
Yeah, it's depressing that that's the fantasy part of this. Sorry.
Oh,
yeah.
I think we've stumbled on maybe a Hot and Bothered episode right there.
That we did. I want to be a fucking night killer crazy person, but nope.
Well,
I
because
am
if
just
we
a woman.
if we think about Tamora Pierce's world, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
she really like empowered, female knights, like with Alana,
Mm-hmm.
and then with like the Squire series.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that was set in a world where it wasn't normal for women to be in the military. And I'm like, this is just a very refreshing take on it. Like, this is not a novelty. It's just a thing that
It's
happens.
like, she's just here. There was another military service. Oh, the Winter's Curse.
The Winter's Curse.
Yeah.
They also do it very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's just like, why does this need to be weird?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, it doesn't? Wow. Crazy.
This is how it can be.
Fantasy.
Yeah.
But then she is all of a sudden awesome at everything, and the 6 weeks is over. And I will say, I love that Nani the cat is just like, because you know how cats apparently adopt humans, and they're like, you're just a baby kitten and you don't know how to hunt for yourself. Like, here's a rabbit head.
Yeah.
I feel like that was Nani the whole time. She's like, you guys are incompetent. Let me bring you food. I am worried.
Yeah, exactly. That's good on Nani. And Nani's like that the entire book.
Yeah. Except she like sleeps all the time, and she's like, okay, give me my like oatmeal. Like, I will bring you some meat eventually.
This fearsome savage desert cat just wants to like lick up porridge every morning. Like, she doesn't care about the mice or the rabbits.
Nope.
Just porridge.
I also love the fact that she's multiple times throughout this book described as just like snoring and like stretched out, and Harry like shoves her off, and she's like, gah, and then curls up again. It's like, that's
the
cats.
pure cat behavior is what that is. Yeah. So Harry kind of like completes her training with Mathen, and she really like solidifies how she's excelling, because she basically unseats Mathen and like disarms him, and this is where she's like, I'm better than you now.
Because he's like even surprised. He's like, that was not supposed to happen.
He does like a whole Lord of the Rings moment, which is like, you have my sword and my axe. Like, I am sworn to thee.
That's literally what happens, though. I think that's verbatim.
Yeah, but it's cute. And so like they kind of wrap up their training like right before, what do they call these trials?
The lap run?
Yeah.
Which it sounded weird when I was reading it, but it's like, that's a very reasonable thing.
It makes sense.
Like,
Like, I don't know why it makes sense, but it does. So Mathen and Harry like leave the hills and they venture down to the capital. And it's like not an annual thing anymore. It used to be, because there's just not enough people to compete. So it's like every 3 or 4 years they hold the lap run trials. And it's basically an audition to be a King's Rider. And you have to be really fucking good.
Mm-hmm. Which, again, it kind of goes into the unbelievable that within 6 weeks, she's just as good.
Yeah.
But at least there's a mechanism to explain away the like craziness.
Just roll with it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Because I'm reading Fourth Ring right now, suffering through it, and there is no mechanism for why Violet is like even vaguely competent at doing anything. It's like, wait a second, she was like a scribe for her entire life, and then all of a sudden she can like
climb a fucking cliff.
Yeah,
because I used some special tools. Oh, I used my brain.
Oh, girl, have you tried doing anything physical? Like, you're gonna get sweaty and angry, and you're not gonna be automatically good at it. But our girl Harry is good at it.
She's very good at it. So they kind of make camp right outside the Capitol, and Mathen is talking Harry through like, all right, this is how it's going to work. You're going to go up to the gate. You're going to be like, hey, I'm Harry. And I'm here to compete in the lap run trials, and they're going to know who you are. Just go with it. And so they have this like fun night of drinking and camping, and Harry's nervous because I think she did a really good job of like describing like pre-game, pre-trial, pre-competition nerves.
I was about to say that the whole way that she describes Harry's experience during the trials, before the trials, is spot on. Like, I wonder if Robin McKinley like ever competed in something like in college or something.
Yeah, like any kind of game, or like even like a race, like a half marathon or a marathon. Like there's the like, okay, I gotta cut down on my diet. I'm gonna be fine. And then your nerves, and then until you start, and then you're competing, and then you zone out, and you're just in the mode, and then you come out of it, you're like, feed me.
I am hungry now. Because that's basically how it happens. And I feel like even Harry is kind of like, I've zoned out. And like part of it is the Kellar like taking over and helping her win or whatever. But it does really encompass well that kind of like zoned out, like you're just doing what your body has been doing for the past however long. And then all of a sudden you do come through and you're like, oh my God, I'm thinking about it too much. Let me like back.
Well, it's like a survival mechanism, because if you've ever been like faced with a task that you're not certain if you can actually do it or not, you just have to like shut your brain down and be like, all right, I guess I'm doing this no matter what.
We're doing it live.
And if I fail, I fail.
Yep.
And that's kind of how Harry goes into this. But it's hilarious because she goes into the first trial and like they explain to her like how you win like these like one-on-one like trial by combat is like you cut off the opponent's sash and it's like a waist sash and you have to be very careful not to draw blood, but you just cut the sash in half and like that ends the thing. And so she like is cutting off sashes left and right and she gets pissed off. She's like, why is this so fucking easy? Like why don't you start trying?
But that's also a thing though, because you know when there's the people that like it's like, okay, you're maybe not taking this as seriously as I am. Like, can we just get through all these easy levels? Like, give me someone like maybe competent.
Yeah.
that's a thing. Like,
and there's a few like different like I totally pictured A Knight's Tale.
oh yeah.
Yeah, like that's the montage here.
Yep. Yeah.
And
I love the last.
Oh,
girl, this
God.
is probably one of my favorite scenes in this whole fucking book.
I have reread the scene several times. Please describe.
Okay, so Harry, there's like a break halfway through or whatever. She's still going, et cetera, et cetera. And then finally, they have been like, you know, the night has fallen. It's a little bit dark. People have like torches now. She's in this like big circle of like, you know, people who are watching the labyrinth trials. They'll have torches, etc., lighting up the small arena. And there's another rider completely covered in like scarves and wraps, and she can't tell who it is, but they're on this beautiful horse and they start fighting. And she realizes that like, wait a second, this is a little bit fucking hard. Like, where was this guy the whole time? And then she, because I don't know, what does she actually do to him? Because she doesn't.
Oh, I know.
Okay, yeah.
I remember so vividly because one, like you said, her anger kicks in.
Yeah.
She realizes not only is he good, but he's just playing with her.
Oh,
like he could beat her at any time.
Girl, that is the worst fucking feeling.
I hate that. And she's like, God fucking damn it. So she like revs her Kellar up a little bit. She's like, all right, we're gonna shift up a gear and be like, all right, bitch. Sorry. Katie, are you okay? No, Katie's not all right.
I took a sip of my Olipop and I was trying so hard not to spit it everywhere. I just love like the arms that you had when you're like, we're gonna shift this up a gear.
I'm sweaty.
That was adorable and I loved it. And I did not spit my Olipop everywhere.
So what had happened was Harry, you know, somehow finds like a weak point in this writer's routine and she manages to like take her sword and cut off the writer's like face mask, the sash across his face. But she's so angry, she's careless about it. And she makes the slightest cut in the writer's cheek and draws a line of blood and that's it. And at the same time, that writer cuts her sash off, like instant, like complete neutral. And then as the sash off his face falls, she realizes she's facing Corlad.
Oh my God. Because it's one of those like equal competent, like they're doing good. And she like got him, but he got her. And it's like, well, like you technically won, but like, did you?
Yeah.
Oh God.
So hot.
I love it.
And that's the end of the labyrinth trials. And Harry becomes Haramad Soul, the king's writer, the king's champion. And she is the winner of the labyrinth trials. And Corlath is like staring at her like he's just found the love of his life. Like she cut his face and he's like, I love you.
God. I mean, we love a man that like is confident enough in himself to be like, oh shit, like she
gonna
hot.
Fuck me up.
I love that the up was so subtle. Oh God. Because it's like he respects her. He's like, oh shit. Like, okay, Harry, fucking like doing your thing.
What was done so well though. So she like is leaving the arena in like a bit of a daze. And so she goes back to her encampment and she's like, I won. Wait, what? What happened? I won. I'm hungry. Feed me. Hungry?
Food.
And so she's eating like a bowl of soup or something. And then like people are coming to her tent to like congratulate her and be like, oh, Haramad Soul, like our champion, like praise thee. And then like Corlath shows up randomly. The king comes to like their tent encampment and he's like sitting down having a bowl of soup with her and like they don't say anything to each other. And like it's like pure awkward.
Yep.
But like that's exactly how that kind of interaction would go.
100%. Yeah. Because it's like, I don't really know what to say to you now. Like we had a moment in the arena and now it's like,
So what's going on here? We're not going to talk about it, right?
Anyways, the soup's real good, right?
Yeah. So yeah, Harry has become Haramad Soul, the king's rider, the king's champion. And yeah, it's getting hot.
I know.
I'm hot right now. It's so steamy in here.
A little bit. Well, from our shelf to yours.
We will see you on the next page.
Hi, readers. If you'd like to help us pick our next book, send us a message on Instagram.
Or if you'd like to just listen, we post new episodes every Monday and Wednesday on Spotify, Apple, and Amazon. Thanks for listening.
Bussin'.